Well, hello there, NextGen fam, and welcome to Mentor Moments with NextGen HQ. Make sure to sit back, take out your notebook, and enjoy what's to come. We are so very excited to have Brian Alvo on with us today to be able to share his experiences so that we can learn and grow because of his entrepreneurial journey. Brian realized really early on in his professional journey that there was more than one way to find success. And it was these realizations, along with experiences that he had in his career, that were the seeds for what was to become the NextGen Center. Brian has over 10 years, guys, of diverse professional experience spanning across several different industries. And he also earned his MBA from Duke University, which we know as one of our lovely co-founders' alma maters. So we know that Brian is a special guy. Brian, we are so excited to have you on with us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're gonna throw you right into the fuel of the mentor moments and start off with a little bit of a NextGen HQ tradition, which are some rapid fire questions. So let me know if you're buckled in and ready for those.
I'm buckled in. Happy to help. Let's do it.
What is one book you'd recommend to others?
I was going to bring this up at some point anyway. Well, the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, I think will go a long way for people.
Amazing. What does your ideal weekend look like?
Well, I have 2 little kids. So my ideal weekend is that we have a lot of family time. It's super engaging, super fun, but also relaxing. So a combination of high energy activities where we're all present together and kind of making memories, and at the same time getting some downtime to quiet down, build my relationship with my partner, with friends, and just also re-energizing so we can tackle the next day.
What's your confidence boost song?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. As a couple, for some reason, I think I heard the song Dream On yesterday by, I think Aerosmith, and it's a classic. It got me going. I was like, wow, I love that song. That's one of many. I can give you more, but that one really sticks out.
We'll just stick with that one. That's a great answer. And what is one healthy habit that you have?
One healthy habit that I have is I journal a bit basically every Saturday morning and reflect on what went well the past week. I also like to document special things that happen with my family, with my business, with my clients. And so I like to keep that memory bank going. So the act of setting aside time to write some stuff down of high impact so that I can look back one day and say, wow, that was powerful.
Oh, I so love that response. And I know that because of the incredible journey that you've been on through your career, there's going to be a lot of those moments to look back on, those moments where you just created such impact, where you have your memories jotted down for yourself. So it seems like a perfect time to dive into what exactly that this has looked like for you. And I'm excited to hear a bit of your story. So we know that you've had a great many professional experiences as well as leadership opportunities too. But I'd love to know a little bit more. What do you think is the biggest risk that you've taken on your journey? And what did you learn from taking that risk that has really set you up for success in the long run?
It's hard to narrow those down. What I will say is there's 2 main pivot points, I would say, in my journey that stick out as risky, if you will, but also huge growth opportunities, going back to that book by Mindset, right? I guess I graduated from college, spent about 4 years in Washington, D.C. I worked with the United States Marine Corps, and I wanted to do public service. Okay, that's a little bit more about my background. I was really into the idea of public service. Well, the federal government's a pretty big machine. And so my thought was, all right, this is one way to do service. What else can I do to deliver on this desire, this need to help and to make change, right? So I ended up doing volunteer work, left my job to do volunteer work in Nicaragua, where I also met someone down there and helped start a nonprofit organization. So that was my first sense of a risky decision, if you will. Anything in entrepreneurship or starting something new is a risk. That's how entrepreneurship is defined. But the learning there, especially if you have a chance to do something overseas or to get involved in a social cause, nonprofit development, is that you're going to build a ton of perspective. The mission is always first and foremost for pointing in your direction, your passion, but the perspective you gain, especially in a different culture, every single day you're navigating something new, navigating something complex. Anytime I used my Spanish and made a mistake, that was a learning opportunity. You look different, it feels different, the environment's different, and it's not all a bed of roses, frankly. It's pretty hard. But the perspective you gain about people, what's out there in the world, and how we can all grow together, it's super, super powerful. That's one risk, I would say. I can elaborate more, but in the interest of time, I'll let you decide, Rachel.
Is there another risk that kind of came to mind? It seems like you've had two pivot moments.
Yeah, I'll share another one just because I think it'll be relevant for folks as they continue on their journey. And the decision to go overseas was when I was in my 20s, right? Which I'm not anymore. The decision in my 30s, another pivot point, which was really powerful, was frankly starting NextGen Center. I had a stable job where I was rising through the ranks in my company, had a lot of impact, was doing good work. And frankly, personal alignment. When you have kids, things just change a little bit. So I took a risk and just stopped working for a month or two to really think on, hey, what is it I want to do next? It was in that journey of trying new things, even when I had a family, which is pretty high risk if you think about it, to do something different. But it was very powerful. And what I'd say is the learning for all the entrepreneurs in your network and people listening is that, again, the risk is going to make things uncomfortable. It's going to have to put you in a position where you have to figure it out, and it reveals a lot about you. So the journey of starting your own business at any time in your life, I think, is going to be very revealing. But there's a lot that can come from understanding that awareness and where you go from there. So the risk of starting my own company and kind of building it into what it is today, it's a risk I think about, but in my opinion, it's a risk worth pursuing.
Absolutely. I think self-awareness is one of the biggest things that as entrepreneurs we really need to focus on and read ourselves where we're at, what our goals are for our life, because that affects every part of the business journey that you're on. So
Mhm.
self-awareness is such a huge part of it. And on that note, I'd love to know, was there a special aha moment that you can remember and recall very vividly in your memory, going back a little bit when you decided to return to school for your MBA? Because it seemed like this had been after a few years of military service, after executive leadership. So it seemed like quite a jump to decide to go back to school. What was that moment where you knew that this was what you needed to do?
Yeah. Well, it's a two-part answer. I think I always knew I wanted to pursue a graduate degree, and the MBA made the most sense for me because I'm not a big writer of dissertations. So I thought this degree sounds a little bit more general and helpful. Practical, if you will. So I'm like, let's try that. But in the spirit of the aha moment, I think what matters is I was pursuing what I knew was important to me early on for 5 years, right? So as a civilian working for the federal government, public service, going down to Nicaragua, helping start a nonprofit, volunteer, also service. The aha moment kind of came when I realized that I liked a lot about the public sector, mission, purpose, belief, the ability to make change. That's all a huge driver, so powerful. At the same time, there was something appealing about the private sector, right? And maybe it had to do with the fact that I don't know if I wanted to write grants forever, right? Or ask for donations, but the idea of, hey, what's possible there? And it was there in Nicaragua where I started to learn about social entrepreneurship and frankly was engaging in social entrepreneurship. There's a book by David Bornstein, How to Change the World. That's the one I was thinking about earlier. If you're into social entrepreneurship, I strongly recommend it. They profile all these amazing companies, all these great people doing inspiring things. And I think that was a moment for me where I'm like, all right, you can get the purpose, you can get the impact. You could also do it in a for-profit space, do things a little bit differently. So what's possible? So all those pieces together create this idea of, hey, what if I studied social entrepreneurship and pivoted into the private sector that way? And which is kind of, I think, aligned with what I'm doing now. Um, the last thing I'll say on that is that the book is great. Doing and acting and making choices that align with those potential, that vision you have for yourself, that's all critical too. But ultimately, all that came together, and Duke actually had a specialization in social entrepreneurship, which is what actually attracted me to the school and the area.
Amazing. So it was that big moment for you was the realization of, you know what the mission that you've set for yourself is to
Right.
create that impact, to make change happen for people, but wanting to explore it in a different way that wasn't nonprofit grant focused writing and all of the politics that come with nonprofits, if you
Sure.
will.
Yeah, I mean, and there are a lot of nonprofits that don't have those things, but the bottom line is there's a lot of different ways to go about achieving what it is you're setting out to do. Going back to the profile intro you did for me, if you're into service and to impact, how do you want to go about pursuing that? And there's a lot of different options, luckily. So
And one of the options that you decided to pursue was the NextGen Center, which I'd love to dive into a little bit more and understand how you really got the idea for it in the first place, and what experiences kind of stand out to you as far as how you've grown through the experience of building this company.
yeah, that's a great question. So what I'd say is the idea came throughout my private sector career. I think in that transition, just to tie it all back together from public sector, business school to private sector, there is this like image of the private sector where you're like, oh, it's going to be a well-oiled machine and everything's like just operating smoothly. I can see you shaking your head. You're like, yep, nope. So I think I had to deconstruct that a little bit. One of the things I realized over time, especially as people in workplaces, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're blazing a trail that's never been blazed before, presumably, right? Is that you think that everything is going to go smoothly, but innovation can be kind of messy. It's disruptive, and everybody's trying to figure it out as well. So if you don't have the answers, you're not alone. We like to pretend that we do, but we don't. So the bottom line is I realized in the private sector that this was a lot harder than I expected in terms of trying to get things done, collaboration, alignment. Then as I became a leader in an organization towards the beginning stage of a company, also as a manager of people and building departments and teams, I also realized like not only is this hard, but what support or resources are there for us to do this even better? And then the way I operate is like, if there's an easier way to do it that can benefit more people, why don't we pursue that? That's just the way I think, right? So what can be done and why can't we do this better? Getting things done should be hard, challenging, but I think we can do better. And so the bottom line is that I noticed that we put a ton of responsibility onto leaders, managers, CEOs, and that's the way it should be. But at the same time, there needs to be a mechanism and access for them to have development and resources and support so that we can all win more effectively. And that's what I realized throughout that journey. And that's how the seeds of NextGen Center were planted. Is also back to alignment, right? So I had a young family, I was traveling a ton, and I was able to look inward and say that alignment, yeah, I like what I'm doing. I really like the company. It's great work. Can I sustain this and have also my family in the picture? And it was a hard decision and thought process. But the bottom line is that it planted seeds for not only can we give support and resources for people, but if we were more aware, going back to that conversation earlier, more aware of the choices we were making, how it affected where we wanted to go. There's no good or bad or judgment in this. It's just a matter of gaining information and trying to figure out how can we get more aligned. So all that together became NextGen Center, started coaching a lot of people, saw lots of similar patterns and said to myself, what if there was an opportunity to bring these people together, to give them the access, give them the impact, give them the community, to make a difference. And that's where it all kind of started. And it's kind of grown from there.
And it has grown into something beautiful for
Thank you.
sure.
Yeah.
I love what you said before, and I think it's so reminiscent for so many who are going to be watching this. Entrepreneurship, it's about deconstruction of what others have told you is the right path to go on, about what you think about for profits, nonprofits, everything in between. And then it's also about disruption and how are you going to create the path forward in a way that changes. And as you were saying about the leader conversation just then, it changes everything for the better for everyone, not just the leader at the front, not the individuals at the back, but everyone along the way.
Yeah. And may I add something real quickly that I think might be helpful for folks listening? If you think about it, especially folks who are starting their careers, we go through this. There's like the institutionalized system of like, hey, we go through school, and then if you want to go to college, then okay, that's there for you. There's an organization or something we're always looking towards, whether it's family, then school, and then if you go to college, graduate school, that we're looking to provide that support. And I think organizations and companies then become that thing. that people look to. And if we could all be more effective, have things in place to help people grow and get to where they want to be, whether it's a company, individual, team, etc., I think that's also important to look at. And so that's, again, part of the whole point.
And part of the whole point of what you are really building at NextGen Center, which leads into the final question for our
Sure.
mentor moments. Of course, we love NextGeners too. I don't know who took the name from who at this point in time, but we'll let you know. So what is your hope for the next generation of leaders? What do you really hope to impart, not only through NextGen Center or through this conversation, but for everyone who kind of stumbles along your way?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think we share the name together, right? To inspire and do good work together. I'm going to just read a quote from Thomas Edison. I think that kind of sums up what my hope is, which is that if we did all the things we are capable of, we would literally astound ourselves. And I love that quote. It stuck with me. I may have even found it in the Bornstein book many years ago. And the reason that really sticks out is because we're all capable of so much, and everybody's circumstances are different. And so just being aware that if we can develop ourselves, focus on developing others, that we could really all try to align to the best of our abilities and make the most of the time that we have. And so in less elevated speech, I would say, we live in a technology-based world a lot right now. There's so much benefit from it. Nobody can argue with it. I think if we continue to get focused on purpose and meaning, then we can help not only build those connections technologically, but also relationally. And I think we need to focus on that. So the wisdom I want to impart and the advice I want to give is focus on connecting with people, but in a very human, person-to-person way. Like we are right now, at least on technology, but looking at each other. I can see you reacting. We can't lose that because we are human beings, not machines, right? So purpose, meaning, communication, human to human contact, understanding vulnerability, connection, all these things really matter, and they can be developed and they can be very skilled. And so there's a lot of ways to go about doing it, but we can't lose sight of that even as we continue to advance technologically. We all can tap in to become the best of who we can be, like Thomas Edison said.
So focus on purpose and focus on connections. Brian, you are speaking our language. One of our values as a company is making relationships number one. We believe that it is first and foremost. Everything that we do, that we aim to do, that we hope to accomplish is based on relationships. So
Certainly the best way to build trust, and I'll also distinguish between thinking about the idea of fulfillment, not necessarily framing it as success, but success can mean anything to anybody. But this idea of fulfillment, relationships, the people, that's what makes us our shared humanity, right?
exactly. Well, Brian, thank you so very much for coming on to Mentor Moments with us. This was such a beautiful interview, and I'm really excited for everyone on the other end of this laptop to listen in and hopefully reach out to connect with you. And on
Yeah.
that note, what is the best way that a next gener could get in contact with you if they wanted?
Feel free to email me at brian@bethenextgen.com. You can go to my LinkedIn profile, Brian Alvo, NextGen Center. You can also just go to our site, which is www.bethenextgen.com. Lots of information on there. Feel free to reach out. We have a great blog. We also are starting our next cohort of leadership development, entrepreneurs alike. Everybody's invited. It's going to be a virtual format. We've been doing it the past several months. It's been awesome, super impactful. And you can find out more about me, us. The whole idea is for us to do this work together.
Well, thank you so much. Everyone go reach out to Brian, go chat about how to find fulfillment, find your purpose, and make connections number one. Brian, thank you so much again for your time.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be with y'all.
See everyone soon. Bye.
Bye.